Hello and welcome to Murder Dictionary Podcast. My name is Brianna and that is Kelly.
Hey. Sorry, I don't know.
Were you thinking of something else to say and it just didn't happen?
Yeah.
Got it. That happens to me too. I get it. So before we get started, we always wanted to remind you of a few things that you will find in our description and show notes every week. In the description, you will find links to our social media if you want to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We've got a lot of art on there, memes, some news stories, some funny stuff, some episode updates. So follow us if you want all the cool shit.
That Popo meme. I sent that to everyone I knew. I'll buy one weed, please. That's my favorite.
My new favorite is the one where the man stabbed another guy in the threesome because he was hogging all the vagina.
Hogging all the vagina. It's the name of your memoir.
So if you want any of that stuff, I highly recommend it. I get a kick out of it. I'm pretty happy with our social media. It cracks me up.
You kill it. You're amazing.
So if you also want to follow us on Patreon and become a supporter or get some merch on Threadless, we've got links for that in the description and show notes. So Threadless has larger items like t-shirts, phone cases, notebooks, housewares, and stuff like that. And Patreon has access to bonus episodes and some small items like stickers and magnets and those kinds of things. So we've got a few new Patreon people this week.
What?
And we wanted to say thank you to new Patreon supporters Beth, Laura, Devin, Ashley, Amanda, Blair, Joanne, and Nature Girl.
Nature Girl. Okay. Beth, Lauren, Ashley, David,
Devin,
Devin, Amanda,
Blair,
Nature Girl, Blair,
Joanne.
and Joanne.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys. And again, if you want bonus episodes and other merch items, just join our Patreon.
Where do I get Brianna body pillows?
Right here.
Gotta Ed Gein and cut off your skin. Make
just
you into
fill it up with some floof. And then I guess a couple more things that you'll find in the show notes are going to be some links to our resource material. So some of the stuff that I researched this week, if you want to follow up and read some articles, you can find the links in the show notes. And also we always have links to some resources for things like domestic violence and anti-bullying and suicide prevention, mental health stuff, 12-step. So if you just need any of those resources, we put the links in the show notes.
I feel like all your sources are it's just going to be like for this episode, just the Bible.
You need Jesus is basically going to be the moral of the story.
Yeah.
I don't know. I rarely think Jesus is the answer to anything. That's why I put all the actual real mental health help in there. But I'm kind of a dick.
He's a good ab goal, you know?
Oh,
like,
for sure. Jesus on the cross abs are like for sure the goal.
You know, Jesus gets a bad rap. Jesus is a good guy. It's just everyone that follows him just relentlessly and just blindly.
Yeah.
And kills in the name of
I guess
a man.
that's true. I don't have too much of a problem with Jesus himself.
He made a shit ton of fish and bread show up and a shit ton of wine show up. Water into wine sold.
And carbs. You're right. You've turned me around, really. Yeah. It's just the followers I have a problem with.
Ancient sushi and bruschetta. Okay. I don't know.
How can you argue with bruschetta? Really?
Oh, it's not bruschetta. Shit.
Is it? Am I pronouncing it wrong?
Know,
oh my God. Is this like a Showgirls moment?
Oh,
First ace.
I'm so white trash. I don't know, man.
We don't really know how to pronounce things.
No shit.
Was it you that I was talking about pronouncing charcuterie? How do you pronounce that?
Charcuterie.
Charcuters.
I didn't know what a cheese plate was.
Charcuteries.
I was trying to get a job at that one place, right? And I was
that's
like,
right.
What's a charcuterie? I'm glad I can come to you with these big, important issues.
Well, together, between the two of us, we can usually figure things out, you know?
Yep.
Together, we pretty much kind of make one whole person.
Yeah.
So, this week, we've got another X story.
Woo!
Another XXX, part 3.
Does Vin Diesel pop up?
No, I'm pretty bummed about it. I wish right now in this moment that I could do a good Vin Diesel impression.
I'm Groot.
Nailed it. Fucking nailed it.
It's the best part he's ever played.
That was really good. Oh man. So this week I've got like, okay, so we focused a lot on the kind of professional parts of the industry. Like we did like industry murders, right?
Yeah.
This one's going to be basically just, public. Like this is a stripper versus a porn star.
What?
Yeah. So I don't know if that's the right way to set up a murder. Should you
like
set it up
showdown.
versus? Like that's probably not a good thing. But yeah, so it is adult industry, but like, we're not really talking about, a rise and fall kind of thing like the Peep Show guy or, Steven Driver. We're talking about like all porn stars and stuff. This is a little bit different.
It's like a XXX Mortal Kombat. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm team stripper, so I don't know how this ends. I don't even know how it starts.
You are? I'm porn star all the way. Always.
Are you?
Always.
Okay. Why?
Every time. I mean, I think that I just respect the work more. I feel like strippers are like,
Acrobats on
we've dealt
poles.
with some fucked up strippers.
That's true.
They usually are the meanest. Porn stars usually have a better attitude about sex. I'm just real pro porn star.
I think they're pretty even, actually.
I mean, we've met some bitchy porn stars too. I get it.
Yeah.
But there's something about, I don't know, strippers have this kind of like entitled, bitchy kind of attitude that I feel like they're always mean.
Oh, but when you, on the both of them, with both categories, when you get the nice ones, they're like
They're
most
the
amazing,
nicest people ever.
confident. If you can fuck on camera or dance in front of anyone naked, half naked, props.
Yeah.
Both sides.
For sure.
I can't fuck on camera.
I mean, we can still try. I believe in you is all I'm saying.
If it's a necrophilia porn, sure. Do it when I'm dead. Do it when I'm dead.
So just to start off, we're going to get to know the Novack family.
BJ Novak?
No, but that would be great. Ben Novack met a model named Bernice at La Martinique nightclub in New York, and it was the early 1950s. He pursued her relentlessly, as dudes do in the 1950s, although they were both married at the time. Scandalous.
That is, yeah.
Scandalosa. So Ben was a wealthy hotel owner, and he basically wouldn't take no for an answer and decided to do whatever it takes to win her over, even though they're both married again.
You remember when that used to be cute? When you wouldn't take no for an answer?
That's what I was thinking. Was just like back in the day, women probably thought that was extremely charming.
Yeah.
Like, he really likes me. It's like, no. But wait. So what he did was, since Bernice was a model, he lured her to Cuba, another fucking country, under the guise of a photo shoot. So it was for a job that she was going to do. And then she arrived and he was there, and no photographer, no nothing, just him.
Run.
Yes,
Oh my
right?
God.
That's fucking scary.
Why would he need to go to a whole nother? Is it for a vacation or is it 'cause he's going to murder you?
I would think I would get murdered, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You're bringing me to another country. Like, I'm in danger,
Totally.
But whatever, I guess we think it's creepy, but it worked on her. He had this plan. He made her go out with him. They went on a couple dates or whatever. And she still like put her foot down and was just like, okay, I'm here, but I refuse to date a married man.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
And she's married too.
Right.
How about I'm married?
And so he got a divorce and he came back and tried again. And this time she decided, okay, I'll give you a shot. And she got her marriage annulled. And they started a relationship.
This is why you need a manager or an agent just to check this shit out.
To book everything and do
and
some
see
background.
It's legit. Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
If he left his wife for a model,
What do you
model's
think?
age.
Right. He's
What
going to do the same thing to you.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I know. But I just think it's like I don't know, that's the foundation of this family that you'll see. It kind of says a lot, the origin story of where someone comes from. You know?
It's a very solid and stable start.
Right? Exactly. So they got married and they relocated to Miami. And Ben started building his next big hotel in Miami. The Fontainebleau Hotel was a huge luxury hotel that he opened on December 20th, 1954. This luxury hotel housed like foreign dignitaries, a lot of celebrities. There was a lot of powerful politicians, all sorts of wealthy elite clientele. There's all sorts of stories about, Frank Sinatra staying there and JFK and Marilyn Monroe staying there at the same time, like all sorts of stuff, Rat Pack things and all that. So over the years, the Fontainebleau Hotel was used in movies like Goldfinger, Scarface, and a Frank Sinatra movie called A Hole in the Head. So Ben and Bernice were basically the face of the Fontainebleau Hotel. Like they were the wealthy people that represented this brand pretty much. And they often hosted like meet and greets, big parties, and had high profile guests. They were kind of in this celebrity echelon.
This sounds like so much fun so far.
I know. How could it go wrong?
Should I build us a hotel?
Please, we need it. So their son, Ben Jr., was born about a year after the hotel opened. But it was clear that the socialite parents really had no intention of kind of like giving up the partying and turning to parenthood. They really just wanted to continue with their life the way that it was, all glamorous and shit.
Totally.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So Ben Sr. and Bernice basically let Ben Jr. run around the hotel doing whatever he wanted. And they relied on the hotel staff to pretty much raise him. Yeah. So if he wasn't running around and driving the hotel staff crazy, he was in his, little sweet hotel room obsessing over TV and comic books, which also he says were basically like his parents. Like entertainment, comic books, TV were his parents.
Way cooler.
That's what raised him.
Way cooler.
So Ben Jr. said, "I never had a childhood. I was always among adults." And there's stories that he would tell about, like, even for his birthday party, it would only be adults. Like, he didn't really have friends, and his parents would just invite all these celebrities, but it clearly wasn't for him,
I mean, don't they have kids? Don't you let the kid hang out by the pool and make kid friends?
Right? Yeah, it seems like he says it wasn't like that.
Huh.
But I think a lot of the other people had better judgment to not bring their kids around.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, he was the only one.
They're like, we're getting tanked with Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, maybe the kids should be with a babysitter. And his parents didn't do that.
One babysitter to take care of all the kids, and he would have had friends.
Open a daycare center.
Yeah.
Instant friends.
Huh. Revenue for the hotel, too, if you do it at the hotel.
Right? Mm-hmm. See, we have all the good ideas.
I know. We really need to open a hotel.
So, a former employee said, "We used to call him Benji because he was a little tyrant and he hated it. He had no discipline whatsoever, and his supervisors were the security guards at the hotel. They brought him up, and as a result, that's what Ben wanted to be, a security guard. So basically, even when he was young, he kind of like barked orders at people. Because it was his home and it's his parents that owned it, he was kind of bossing people around even when he was little.
Yeah, everybody's employed by your parents, which kind of technically means
it's you.
It's you, yeah, exactly.
By default.
Yeah.
Yep.
Give me all the towels and toilet paper you have and give me those small little soaps and stuff,
So he was pretty isolated and alone. That's how he grew up, and he got dropped off at school in a limousine. And of course, because he was kind of different than other kids, he was an outcast even at school,
How about don't show up in a limousine?
Right. I mean, there's simple solutions, but
walk to school.
Yeah.
Drop me off around the corner.
Get a bike, fool. It builds character. So again, he kind of retreated into this fantasy world of TV and comics. That was always where he went to. And he started collecting memorabilia even when he was really young, because his parents really let him spend money too. So because the Novack family was really wealthy and high profile, Ben Jr. was also targeted for kidnapping threats. And although nothing ever happened and nothing ever came of it, there was always kind of this danger looming over him that someone might take him, and people were threatening, trying to extort them. But the weird thing is, it really didn't make his parents any more attentive or like heightened security or anything.
That sucks. And I would have even thought at some point, like, if you felt so alienated that you would, some people do that themselves, like, you know, you pretend to be kidnapped just to see how much your parents care.
Yeah.
And then
I feel like that's the SVU episode or something. Like,
yep.
yeah, but he just was like, well, they knew it was a threat, but they didn't really do anything. They were just like, okay, be careful, kid.
Yeah, but we're getting tanked with Sinatra. So if you guys want to come join us,
Right?
take the limo after school.
So as time went on, he was kind of left to his own devices, got a little bit older, got into his teenage years, and he found another obsession: women. So, of course, at the hotel and everything with the celebrities and the glamour and everything, there was a ton of people that were basically just with attractive women. So he was surrounded by burlesque dancers, some escorts, showgirls, young starlets that would stay there. And of course, he was the kid, so they would fawn over him. You know, they were just, you know, there's this cute little kid, and he basically took full advantage. Like, he was a very, you know how there's kids sometimes that are like weirdly flirtatious, you know? Like, he was one of those little boys that was like always hanging all over the ladies.
Yeah, and you just play into it because you're like, oh, that's so cute. Oh, he accidentally grabbed my boob. That's hilarious.
And then as he got into a teenager, then like, of course, he would take some of these girls home, you know, because they're already in his home.
Yeah,
like, they're
didn't have
in
to
the
go
hotel.
far. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I'll meet you at room 23.
Right. Exactly.
Damn, I'm like, I don't want to sound oddly jealous. But
game recognized game?
yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Like, I didn't have that much love and attention from, I mean, we had, you know, 8 other kids, but I could have been in a fucking hotel
Right?
being alienated too. I was stuck in Reseda.
So as he got older into his teen years and he was actually like hooking up with these women, he was developing a lot of like womanizing habits.
Ugh,
and yeah, they seem to be modeled kind of after his father, you know, who eventually, of course, like we said earlier, left Bernice for a younger woman who was like a beauty queen from Uruguay, if I remember correctly. Like, yeah. So he just kept moving from wife to younger wife to younger wife.
That's exactly like, that's such a fucked up and feared thing. Like, of course, there's like an expiration limit or a time on women.
Right?
It sucks.
It's fucked up. I know. So in addition to just sleeping around, Ben also developed a taste specifically for sex workers. So he was notorious for like spending sprees at strip clubs. He was one of those dudes. He was a frequent customer of local escorts. In addition to some of the womanizing things, Ben also mirrored his father when it came to his drive to succeed. Ben Jr. was determined basically to make something of himself on his own, separate from his father's fortune. And really, it was kind of competitive. He wanted to be more successful than Ben Sr. So he opened up a business organizing trade shows, conventions, like event planning basically, for large businesses. And it became pretty successful. So Ben Jr. was able to like out-earn his father pretty young, actually. And eventually his father sold the Fontainebleau Hotel and struggled to kind of keep the hotel afloat. And so he was more successful than his father, and he kind of felt like he won that competition.
Okay.
In 1985, Ben Jr. had to declare Ben Sr. incompetent to handle his finances because his father's young beauty queen bride was spending too much money, and his elderly father was not really with it enough to limit her spending. And then about a week after he took them to court and everything, Ben Sr. actually died at the age of 78.
Okay, so he had to take him to court because he couldn't manage his own assets, or like, did his son have some role in the assets that he had? Like, I don't... Was she like fucking up the money that was in his will or something like that? Or,
I mean, I guess it was more like she was spending all his money, and that's family money because they all kind of had shares in the business.
Okay.
Like his mom was a shareholder. He was like, they were all partners at some point, I guess. So yeah. And I mean, I think that even if they weren't, I think there's a possibility that, the lawyers would get involved if this woman is just taking all this man's money and he's being victimized. I think it was just kind of to protect his father too, But he passed away, and Ben kind of made it his mission to like stabilize the family fortune. Any of their investments, their real estate or whatever, he took it on. And with his mom, they kind of managed everything. And they all made a lot of money. Like, he was very successful as a businessman. He was really well known in Miami's high society, just like his parents were. And a lot of the people that knew him, really, the one thing that stood out was that he was very eccentric. He was a very different kind of dude. So Ben still had that obsession with TV and comics. And at one time, he had one of the most valuable Batman collections of memorabilia, including an original Batmobile.
What?
Yes. People also would see him driving around the Batmobile. Like, he would drive it around town, just whip it.
You think he's trying to emulate Bruce Wayne in a little...
Exactly.
It's like dead parents and really rich and stuff like that. I mean, not dead, but they were like,
I am Batman.
Yeah. That's crazy, though.
Yeah, so, I mean, but it was unique. It made him stand out. So he wasn't just like the typical, like, rich guy. He was known as kind of this eccentric, kind of unique weirdo, you know?
Eccentric and a little bit obsessive, right?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
There's a difference between liking something and then just trying
to
get
getting a Batmobile about it.
Exactly. And getting the most rare version. I mean...
Right. Yeah, it was a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
He never did things halfway, basically.
I wish I had that. No half-stepping.
In the late 80s, Ben became obsessed with an exotic dancer that called herself Sylvia.
Sylvia? I'm sorry.
I know. Well, it was the 80s.
Well, I just need to stay. Yeah, it should have been fucking Cherry Poppin' or something. Something weird, right?
Cherry Poppins.
I don't know.
So Sylvia had naturally black hair, but she like bleached it blonde and permed it. She had that like crunchy yellow 80s hair. And she kind of went for that like metal groupie kind of look is the best way I can explain it. Like when you see her, and also bordered on kind of kink fashion. Like she liked to have kind of S&M fetishy kind of fashions. Ben saw her and was like hooked and came to see her every night for weeks.
Yeah.
It was his new obsession.
Go team stripper. So excited.
So, quote, air quote, Sylvia was actually a woman named Narcisa Siravalise Percheo.
Now that's your stripper name. What are you talking about?
But
Narcisa?
But people called her Narcy.
Okay, that's not a good start. If you were born with the name anything related to narcissistic.
Exactly. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, oh my God, what parent does that to their kid?
Narcisa.
Yeah. And she was from Ecuador. Narcy had been dancing because she was basically a young single mother, and it was the best way for her to earn money and support herself and her daughter,
Yeah, go girl.
She was kind of, a feisty hothead and known to be a loose cannon, but this made her basically more intriguing to Ben. Like, he was like, perfect, he loved it.
It always works out like that. The
right?
more hot-headed, the more fiery they are.
I can't handle it, but
the
you
more
do you,
unstable. Boo. Yeah, guys are like, I fucking love it. I need that.
I'll take 3, please. So according to Narcy's daughter, May, she also practiced voodoo. I didn't find too much like information detailed about it, but even her daughter would basically say, yeah, my mom's kind of nuts. Like she has a temper and she's kind of not all there, like when you're little, you just take reality as your parents present it to you. Mm-hmm. But May was kind of aware that her mom was definitely not like other moms,
There's hair dolls all over our house. Dead chickens.
A lot of cackling and man. Yeah, her daughter said, when I was younger, I just thought of it as a game. But as I grew up, I realized it was serious and she was kind of crazy.
I relate
That's
to
pretty
that
bad.
So hard.
I know. So basically, I don't know how true it is, but as the story goes, Ben basically rescued Narcy outside the strip club while an attacker was trying to get at her while she was getting in her car after work one night.
Oh, because he rolled up in the Batmobile and the guy just ran.
That's pretty much what, like, the way that they try and present it. I don't know how true it is, but there's been a bunch of movies and stuff about that. I don't know. There's something in me that's just like, I don't even want to say it because that's just sounds so stupid, but it may have happened.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, it may have happened.
I hope it did. I hope someone was like, not Batman. We got to get out of here, guys.
Yikes. Let's scram.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the way the story goes. Or, you know, maybe that's just the way he saw himself, as like rescuing this damsel in distress.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of what he thought. So apparently, if that's to be believed, afterwards, she basically felt like she owed him one and agreed to go on a date with him, you know? But I'm not sure how true it is. Who knows?
I'll send an edible arrangements.
Right?
Thanks.
Here, just hand him your panties.
I think these are mine. They're in my pocket.
So I don't know. Whatever the origin is, I mean, he was going there for a while and eventually asked her out, you know?
Yeah, it's a romantic start to this beautiful relationship.
Right. And they started dating and, you know, kind of had, of course, a chaotic relationship due to how feisty she was. And he was still like super obsessed with her. So no matter what she did, he put up with it,
God
you know?
damn it.
So they also had a lot of kinks and fetishes in common. And she was definitely had a bit of a dominatrix side to her. So Ben basically pulled out all the stops to win her over and let her know that he was serious, that he didn't just look at her as, you know, just a game or a notch on his belt or whatever. He really wanted to have a serious relationship with her.
Yeah, until she gets old and the next one comes along.
Exactly. So he took her on extravagant dates. He bought her expensive gifts. He introduced her to his family, like brought her around town to all sorts of events. He was really, you know, making her the girlfriend, you know, because she seemed kind of a little bit scared that he would just leave her, you know, that she was just a toy or whatever. So he also, in doing this, made it a really big point to not just focus on Narcy, but also to include her daughter, May. And he wanted to try and make sure that the daughter also knew that he was serious about her mother, you know? So he introduced Narcy and May to his mother, Bernice. And Bernice knew that Narcy was a stripper and was very rude and disapproving of their relationship.
That sucks.
I know. Yeah, she was, I don't know, I think she was kind of a high society woman. She was worried about the way it would look, even though he only told his family. He didn't tell everybody where he met her. He just, you know, told his mom, you know, but she was like not having any of it. But Bernice was still really nice and inclusive with the daughter, May. Okay. So that was good. At least there's that. So even though she was giving Narcy a hard time, she seemed to embrace the daughter. Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to support my kid and not use your, you know.
Yeah, like I'm trying to make my own money. Yeah. So don't be a bitch.
Exactly.
Yeah. By all accounts, though, Narcy wasn't really the most loving mother, of course. And she resented the fact that the Novack family embraced her daughter May more than her. It made her really upset. But May and Ben became very close, you know. It was important to him to prioritize the daughter.
I think you'd be thankful. You could be a little bit upset.
Just be happy for your kid having something healthy, a healthy relationship.
It could have gone way worse. Yeah, where's her dad? Is he like...
Gone. Ecuador. You know, like, who fucking... Yeah. Whatever.
Did you know Ecuador on average has the largest penises? Penis.
Really?
Yep.
The more you know.
Yep. Africa Congo. It might be Congo, then Ecuador. But Congo and Ecuador are up there.
I like how you presented that fact and then just reeled it back in. It was like, no.
Africa.
You sounded so confident.
It's top 3. Top 2.
Oh, man. So her daughter May said that her and Ben were so close that people often thought that he was her real biological father and that Narcy was her stepmother.
No.
Like they had that kind of weird dynamic. You know how you see kids and it's just like, you guys don't get along, you know? Like there's something up there. And people just thought like that was her stepmom.
Oh, all these things are building up to make her feel really alienated.
Exactly.
And what do we know what happens when people get alienated?
They get therapy and they heal and they move on.
That is right. He's so smart.
So over time, Narcy kind of toned down her image and she began playing the role of a wealthy trophy wife. She dyed her hair back to natural and took on a more like polished, refined style and tried to fit in with the people that she was basically trying to be peers with. So Bernice may have known where Narcy came from, but really everybody else was kind of in the dark. Ben didn't say anything. He was just, you know, this is my new girlfriend. And she started to kind of fit into high society and people had no idea. In 1991, Ben and Narcy got married. And when they got married, they actually got a prenup where Narcy would only get 65 grand if they divorced.
That's fair.
In the 90s, that's probably $80 million now or something.
Yeah, how do we want prenup?
So Narcy also got involved in Ben's businesses and she began like accompanying him to business trips and meetings and she helped him out with client relations basically. A lot of people would talk about how Narcy kind of had this way with men, just in general. So Ben basically saw this as an opportunity to involve her in meetings, and some of the clients that maybe were butting heads with him or weren't compromising about things or maybe were a little bit difficult, she had a way of just sweet talking them and winning them over in a way that he couldn't because he was kind of more abrasive, a little bit more direct. And she would just come in and kind of in a calm tone talk things out with them and maybe be a little flirtatious and then she got the deals made.
I mean, that's what she knows how to do.
That's her skill. Yeah,
that's her skill.
I mean, really.
Utilize it. It's just utilized in a different situation. You're just selling a different product.
Exactly. Yeah. So she kept things together while she was doing business, but Narcy was pretty difficult at home. Even though she was really helpful with the business aspect, their relationship was still pretty tumultuous and she was pretty nuts.
But yeah, okay, so it was really her, it wasn't him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he was eccentric, but nobody really has any accounts of him being an asshole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or violent or anything
right.
like that. Or,
no, he was like... anyone that has anything negative to say about him is mostly just like he was a cunning businessman. He would just make decisions about business. It wasn't personal. Like, you know, he could be a little bit pushy because he wanted to get his way. He wanted to make money, but he was never an asshole, you know? It was usually Narcy.
Okay.
Those a bit nuts. Yeah. As time went on, the relationship became, of course, more and more tumultuous, and they had some pretty, I'd say, bizarre issues and disagreements. They fought over Ben's infidelity and they fought over money, but really they seemed to fight constantly about anything and everything, almost like they enjoyed it. You know those people?
I've been there, yeah. Infidelity and money doesn't really sound too bizarre to me.
But then the frequency with which they fought, like, you know, you could compromise, you could communicate better, you could like get some tools to not have to do that. But it seemed like they liked it, you know?
Not to be crazy, but they probably had great sex.
Yeah,
that's how it always is. Those relationships they're never good sex. I mean, there's never bad sex because why would you stay? Why would you stay and fight? There wasn't a reason.
So one of the problems was, though, that their fights often crossed the line and became physical. And it seemed like Narcy was often kind of going at him, you know, trying to attack him.
Why, when you can use your words to destroy someone's life?
Maybe not everyone is as skilled as you.
I'm not good, but I'll just shout out really bad words. Lazy. Ugly.
Good for nothing.
Yeah.
So some of the things that maybe to me seem a little bit more bizarre, like, yes, it's normal to fight over money or infidelity or whatever, but they had some pretty weird shit going on. So one of the things that happened was that Ben and his mother, Bernice, believed that at one point Narcy actually poisoned Bernice's drink, which made her have a bad fall, and she was sent to the hospital. Yeah.
Wouldn't they test for a poison?
Right.
No?
So I don't know whatever happened with that, but if you think it's that person, you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? Like, where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah. Like, if you're afraid of this person, there's a reason you're afraid of them.
Absolutely.
You know, they're volatile enough, dangerous enough to where you think they might do something. And I don't know if she did poison it, but there were other things. So there was also an incident where they got in a physical fight and Narcy broke her nose.
The mom's nose?
Narcy broke her own nose.
She punched herself in the face?
I don't...
I'm so sorry.
I don't really know the specifics of how it happened, but Narcy's nose was broken.
I just imagine she ran into a wall.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
Just like run full speed. Yeah, so she had to get plastic surgery to get her nose fixed. So she went under anesthesia, woke up, her nose was fixed, and she had new boobs.
Upgrade.
Which she did not agree to. So apparently Ben had taken upon himself to get her new boobs.
No. She wants this. Trust me. She didn't mention it. She just...
I don't even know how that's legal. Like, I don't know. That
not.
seems real fucking crazy to me. But I mean, they would have weird fights like this. Like, can you imagine dating someone and thinking they poisoned your mom or something? You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine like the surgery I had, someone changing the operation, you know, like, these are just weird fucking fights. They're not normal.
But you would think because you need a consultation, they make you do the lines in the mirror and they're like, how about this lift? And then pick A or B if you want tits like Angelina or you want tits like Brittany.
Yeah. You know? I don't know. Like, I don't know how it could happen, but she claims it happened. I don't know. Again, like some of this stuff I'm just kind of bringing up, it's kind of hearsay. I don't know. None of those stories are taken to court, so I don't really have any like proof or anything. But it's just worth bringing up so you see the kind of level of fucking craziness. It's not, no relationship is perfect. It takes work, but this was not normal relationship stuff.
God, imagine if you wanted the titties, you woke up like the happiest you've
ever
been.
Right? Just like angels singing.
He loves me. He really loves me.
One of the biggest crazy weird things that happened was in 2002. So Ben and Narcy had this huge disagreement, and she basically said she was leaving and she was trying to storm out. She started getting some of her stuff. And then she tried to get into a safe because she wanted to take some cash, and Ben had changed the codes to the safe and she lost her shit. Yeah. So she was fucking livid. She left the house, but later a few men came back and basically tied up Ben and severely beat him. No. And again, none of this was taken to court, but it was definitely something that Narcy arranged. So they held him hostage until he agreed to open that safe that she was locked out of and hand over the cash.
Oh, he's like stars 696969. Something stupid.
420.
Yeah, like what? And don't you have a credit card, a debit card, jewels, gold bullion? I don't know. Fucking silk sheets, something you can hawk.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just the fact that he had changed the codes.
Yeah.
It's, of course symbolizes the lack of trust he has for her.
Yeah.
And she lost her shit.
I'd go hop on that pole.
Right? Go make money. You can make money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they held him hostage until he agreed to open the safe. And the men ended up stealing about $370,000 worth of cash, jewelry, valuables, and a bunch of stuff. And then they left Ben tied up.
Yeah, that should hold her over. That'd be good for the week.
So later on, his stepdaughter, May, actually discovered him unconscious and called the police.
No. And you let your fucking daughter find that?
Yeah.
Like, what a... Oh, my God.
I know. She's terrible. I know. So the police, of course, brought Narcy in and questioned her. And she told the police that her husband had hit her and that her husband had an S&M fetish. And this was basically like a part of a game for them. Like that's how she tried to spin it. So she presented them with a bunch of pictures, like this collection of fetish pictures, and showed these to the detectives as basically proof that it was normal for them to do these things and that they like to do crazy, dangerous, violent sexual things. It was all just a game, and that was their kink.
Sure, but why was he by himself unconscious for days?
Right.
And your daughter found him mid-sexual act?
Right.
Where were you?
Fucking, I don't know. That's just crazy. So a few days later, Narcy got a temporary injunction for domestic violence and basically restraining order against him. No. And in the paperwork, she said, "My husband slapped me and punched my stomach, spit on my face, and threatened me. He said he wants me to rot in jail." So a few days after this, they filed for divorce. But, of course, less than a month later, Narcy returned a quarter of the money, about $100,000 of what she stole, back to Ben, and they reconciled, got back together.
No.
Fucking crazy,
Dumb.
right?
This is the part where they should have split up. If you had someone, oh my God, dude, if someone tied me up,
left me for a full day, had dudes beat me up, no fucking way. I can't even imagine going back.
I'm baffled. Oh
yeah.
My goodness.
Crazy. So Ben decided to not press charges. He dropped all the charges, but he did buy a gun and he started wearing a bulletproof vest. The adapting to a new default always drives me crazy. Like, you're not going to make a change to actually get away from the person that is making you not safe. You're just going to try and get items to make you safe. Like, that doesn't really change the fact that the threat is still there. Get rid of the threat, right?
Where is fucking the 18-year-old Miss Universe that's supposed to walk into his life? Where is the new boo? That sucks. Again, the whole thing with letting your own daughter walk in on something like that, just...
Yeah, there's clearly some sort of chip missing where she just doesn't feel attachment or love to people, because to let your daughter do that, to do that to your husband, you clearly, there's something wrong. Yeah.
That would stick with imagine it would stick with your kid forever, right? That would just be really traumatizing.
And she was, her daughter was in her adulthood at this point. But I mean, by all accounts, her and Ben were super, super close. Absolutely. And so that was really traumatic and difficult for her, It's terrible. So things went back to normal basically for the next few years, it seems, or as normal as can be. Normal plus a gun and a bulletproof vest, basically. So Ben was still going to strip clubs and hiring escorts, and it's really kind of unclear if Narcy was okay with this. By some accounts, she was kind of resentful that he was seeing other women, and by other accounts, she would be one of those people, like we talked about, just going to strip clubs with her dude, bringing women for threesomes, and not having a problem with it. So there's varying accounts, and we don't know really to what degree she was okay with it, but it was still happening.
I'm sure she was okay with it when she was there. I guess it's when you go outside of that and you're going to strip clubs by yourself.
Yeah. I honestly, that's my theory too. I think she was okay with it as long as she was kind of there supervising or something, but if it was outside their marriage, that's what upset her, I think.
Kudos to the couples that can do that.
Yeah.
Can't.
Ben was basically still going to strip clubs. He was hiring escorts. And, in 2008, he met an escort named Rebecca Bliss, a.k.a. Mona Love.
Mona Love. Why? I know this name.
Yep.
Kind of like Becky Bliss, though.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, why would you change your name? Your name's a perfect porn star name.
Yeah.
You're come on.
Mona Love sounds like an amazing R&B singer that I would love.
Yes.
Becky Bliss is like the girl next door with pigtails and a schoolgirl skirt.
I'd fuck both of them.
Yeah. Back to back.
Ass to ass. So basically, he met her from a website and he emailed her and tried to arrange a date. So Rebecca was a tattoo artist from Grand Rapids, and she'd basically fallen on hard times, and she had gotten a DUI. She was charged with failure to pay child support, and she was trying to make some money, and she started doing porn. So she decided to leave her husband and her daughter in Michigan, and she moved to LA and went into porn. And then she did that for a couple years and then relocated to Miami, and she was doing escort and stripping and stuff like that. I don't know, to describe her, I would say she basically looks like any of the brunettes from Rock of Love. She's kind of like got that.
So none of them? No, just kidding. What brunette?
You know, like.
Oh, Rodeo. That's the only one I remember.
So she just kind of looks a little like a rocker girl. She's got tattoos. She's got kind of like that borderline country aesthetic that for some reason is associated with rock, you know?
I love that fucking show, man.
So her hobbies included handguns, archery, motorcycles, and demolition derbies.
In love. I'm in love.
She looks like she's been through some shit. She's one of those girls, you know.
Blood and some love. Hard times.
So they met up. They, exchanged some messages over the websites and whatever, and then they decided to meet up, and they exchanged $600 and had sex. Afterwards, Ben continued to contact Rebecca, and they began basically talking every day and getting to know each other. And they got closer, and Ben started to call her his girlfriend. And he decided to put her up in a nice hotel and send her for spa days and get her gifts and make her basically his girlfriend.
And wifey was totally okay with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everything went perfect.
Menage a three.
He asked her not to work anymore, though, and he offered to basically pay all her bills so that she could learn to become a DJ and start a new career in music.
He chose the DJ path?
No, that was her choice. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, that's fucking weird.
So he then bought her a condo. It was $1,400 a month in Fort Lauderdale, which was closer to him. And he got her $10,000 worth of furniture and another $10,000 of DJ equipment, and got her a new cell phone because the old one was associated with escort stuff. And he also got her a toy poodle puppy.
Ew. Now that's a daddy.
Yeah, it's true. So Rebecca says that the two of them fell in love. Like, she says for her it was real, for him it was real. Like, they really cared about each other. And Ben intended to leave Narcy for her.
Of course.
So Narcy discovered the affair in January of 2009. They'd been together about like 6 months or something like that. So she tracked Rebecca down and confronted her. She asked Rebecca if she knew that Ben was married, and Rebecca said yes. And Narcy told her basically, there's lots of other women. You're not the only one. And, don't feel special. You're just one of however many. And to Rebecca, that didn't matter. She didn't believe her. She knew she was just talking shit. So Narcy saw that this wasn't really working on Rebecca. And she switched her tactic, and she offered her $10,000 to stop sleeping with her husband.
I'll take it.
Sold.
Yeah, it's his money anyway.
And Narcy told Rebecca, if I can't have him, no one will.
You never want to hear that.
Nope.
Run.
Bad. Yeah. So still, Rebecca was not deterred. She just didn't care. And she's like, I'm not stopping. I love him, and I'm going to stay with him. So when she refused to stop, Narcy started trying all sorts of crazy girl tactics, like prank calls and stuff like that, I think she slashed her tires, like that kind of bullshit.
Is your refrigerator running? God damn it.
So another thing Narcy did was she called Rebecca's landlady and informed the landlady that Rebecca's rent would no longer be paid. She was like, you need to evict her, blah, blah, blah. And the landlady says she didn't buy it for a minute. She knew it was like some domestic dispute. It was bullshit.
Yeah.
And as long as the bills are being paid, so she didn't care. She didn't kick her out.
Okay, good joke. She's not paying the bills.
Right?
Nice try.
So the landlady didn't buy the story. It blew over, whatever.
I like that no one's falling for it.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah, except for Ben.
Damn it, Ben.
So Narcy constantly stalked Rebecca. Rebecca said that she could see her following her and stuff. There were harassing phone calls. Narcy also falsely reported her and Ben to the FBI. And she told the FBI that they were both involved in basically fake marriage scam where they would try to get foreigners legal status through marriages.
She's from Ecuador, right?
Right.
Okay. She should be quiet.
So FBI agents said that basically there was no investigation that was ever started. They didn't believe her either.
Yes.
So Narcy's tactics to harass Rebecca were basically not working. And of course, we know about crazy girls that just makes them more angry, right? So she really believed that Ben might divorce her and she might pretty much lose everything, you know? And according to their prenup, like I said before, Narcy would only get 65 grand if they divorced.
Only 65 grand.
You know, to her, it was like the fucking end of the universe because she had access to all this money when she's with him.
And she gave back 100 grand from the 300 that she stole.
She already lost.
Yeah.
So Ben's worth at the time was estimated to be between 6 and 10 million. And he also had the companies that were continuing to bring in revenue. Plus, he had his Batman memorabilia. And of course, it was one of the biggest in the world. And it was estimated at about $1 million. He filled up like 4 warehouses and it was in like the Guinness Book of Records and stuff like that. So there was also a ton of money in that collection. Knowing that she was going to lose access to all of this and that was kind of an imminent danger, she decided to try and get rid of him so she could get access to a more substantial portion of his money. One of the problems with the plan of just getting rid of Ben was that his will named his mother as curator of his estate, which means that she would receive $200,000 in cash plus $2,500 per month, and she would have some control over the businesses. So all of his shares, basically, it sounds like they would go to her, and she would have say in all the business stuff.
And the mom didn't like her.
Right, exactly.
So you got to kill the mom.
Right. So, I mean, even though the balance would go to Narcy and she would still get a ton of money, since Bernice would still have control over things, like you said, she decided she had to get rid of Bernice because otherwise she would make things hard for her. Anything that Narcy tried to do, Bernice would probably put a stop to it, you know? So she had to get rid of both of them. So Narcy asked her brother, Cristobal Veliz, to help her hire hitmen to do the job. And I'm assuming that this is basically how she did the robbery a few years prior. By all accounts, her brother was kind of like a petty thief, nothing big, but definitely a little bit of a criminal element. And she basically most likely enlisted his help when they did the robbery previously, I'm assuming.
So he'd have all the criminal connections.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So her brother, Cristobal, hired Alejandro Gutierrez Garcia, Joel Gonzalez, and Dennis Ramirez to carry out both murders. On April 4th, 2009, Alejandro was paid $600 to attack Bernice Novack. I hate hearing those amounts of money because it's just so small, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what she got paid to
crazy.
have sex, right?
Right? Like, yeah.
That was an hour of work on her back.
That's like an hour of Rebecca's time.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like, that's just crazy that, you know, that's a human life, you know?
Yeah, for nothing.
Yeah.
It shows you how desperate they were. Or desperate, or they just didn't give a fuck.
Right.
And they enjoyed
that
it.
It doesn't value, like, there's no value to it. It doesn't matter, you know? Alejandro hid next to Bernice Novack's garage outside her house. And when it got dark, Bernice came outside and she was in a nightgown and she went to pull her car into the garage because it was, I believe, a convertible. So she pulls the car into the garage and Alejandro walks in and follows her inside. And when she got out of the car, he hit her on the head with a wrench. Bernice started screaming and he continued to hit her in the face until she was quiet.
Oh. hammer smash face. I can't do it. That's such a painful.
I know.
Just a hammer. I just cracks.
So Alejandro then fled the scene, and he left Bernice in the front seat of the car, basically, like pushed her into the front seat of the car. But Bernice was still conscious. She was still alive. So she managed to pull herself out of the vehicle, and she started crawling inside the house. And she tried to basically stop the bleeding. There was evidence that she just kind of like grabbed some towels and stuff. But eventually she collapsed and she died in the laundry room.
No.
Yeah. And her son found her. So Ben came to the house the next morning just to visit his mom and check on her. She's getting older, you know, and he walks into the house and just found her covered in blood. There was blood smeared in the car and, of course, extending through the garage and into the house. An autopsy showed that her teeth were broken, along with her finger, and that her skull was cracked. One of the problems, though, is that if you remember the story recently where they thought that she was poisoned, she had had a fall recently.
No.
So the medical examiner looked at this and saw this as evidence that, okay, Bernice is getting older. Maybe she's not stable on her feet. I think she just fell, basically.
From the top of the fucking house? I don't get what stair could she have fallen from to break her teeth, her face, slid over? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, she wasn't trying to belly flop into the pool and missed.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that the combination of recently having a fall, plus they found alcohol in her system, whoever the medical examiner was, just decided that this kind of added up to her falling and hitting her face on the car, which I feel like it just doesn't make sense because she had multiple hits. If you have only one site, that makes sense to me. That's a fall.
Yeah.
But if there's clearly evidence that someone was hit multiple times, there's multiple fractures, like how does it make sense that it's an accident?
Yeah, if you're not falling down a cliff, if your teeth and the top of your head are fucked up and you're somehow in a different position where it's not at the bottom curled up like a pretzel where you were flipping and tumbling, that just doesn't make sense. You just need one good physics teacher to explain that there's not enough force.
It's not like she went downstairs, so there was multiple, it looks like there was just one fall is what they were saying, and that doesn't make sense if there's multiple injuries. So, but no matter what it is, I don't know. It was declared an accident. So it was just a closed case, basically. There was no investigation.
Dumb.
Yeah. That's fucking devastating.
I would be livid. Like, how hard. And he found his mom, dude. He found his mom. Just like his stepdaughter found him.
Exactly. Ugh. I know. Yeah. So even though it was found to be an accident, Ben, of course, didn't believe it. And he decided to buy more guns. Yeah. So, of course, believing that they had already gotten away with one murder, Narcy and her brother then focused on getting rid of Ben. On July 2nd, Narcy and Cristobal drove from Florida to New York and basically scouted out this Hilton hotel where Ben was planning a convention coming up. So Ben was going to be there for business, so they went ahead of time and kind of looked where the event was happening, the layout of the hotel, and since he would be busy with his client, they figured that they can find a time to attack him over the course of that convention. Ben was putting on a convention for Amway, which was one of his biggest clients, and they knew that he'd be really busy, really stressed out, and they figured that, this was a perfect time to have these guys, these hitmen, attack him. They did the first scout, and then they came back about a week later on July 9th, and this time they brought Alejandro Garcia and Joel Gonzalez with them to basically plan things out. So the hitmen agreed to carry out this murder for $15,000.
That's a better markup.
I know, that's like a huge leap. It's kind of crazy. So at first, the plan included cutting off Ben's testicles. That's something that Narcy specifically requested.
And that would be something that would specifically tie them together.
Exactly.
Like, who would want to cut his balls off? Oh, his wife.
Right.
That he's cheating on.
But eventually she dropped that. And I don't know if maybe the hitmen were like, no, we can't do that. I don't know what the deal was.
That'll be 17,000.
Right. But it changed. And basically one of the things that she requested was that they slash his eyes. Yeah.
Why?
Right. Narcy, one of the things that she had to do was identify her husband. So they basically met up at the same restaurant at the same time, and the hitmen were sitting at one table, and she had lunch with Ben in a way to identify what their target looked like. And she was laying with his hair and basically having a typical husband-wife dinner and identifying him to his killers.
She's just drawing like an invisible
an
bullseye.
X on the back of his neck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She's marking the spot.
Yeah, it was fucked up.
It's crazy how people can do that and just be so...
Yeah, just not feel anything. Doesn't matter to her.
Yeah. I guess those are psychopaths, right?
Yep. On the morning of July 12th, Narcy called up her brother Cristobal to signal that they were ready to put the plan in motion. And Cristobal hung up and said to the hitmen, well, she's ready, let's go. So that morning, Ben had actually been working and he was awake all night. And at about 6:30, he finished working, finished up some paperwork, got in bed, and went to sleep. At about 7 a.m., Narcy opened the door to their hotel suite and let Alejandro and Joel into the hotel room. They used duct tape to bind his legs together around his knees and then secure his hands behind his back. Ben, of course, started screaming, and Narcy was like really startled and handed the guys a pillow to muffle the noise. They then took the duct tape and wrapped it around his head and his mouth so tightly that he actually vomited and choked on it.
Ugh.
Yeah. They proceeded to use weights like dumbbells to beat him to death while he was tied up. Narcy then told them to finish the job by gouging out her husband's eyes with the knife. They left the body with a knife still in the eye. The hitmen afterwards just left the scene. She left the hotel room and then made an appearance downstairs at the convention. And a couple people kind of walked up to her and were like, oh, where's your husband? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, he's just getting rest, and acted completely normal. And then a short while later, she returned upstairs and pretended to discover his body. Narcy's daughter, May, also worked for the family business, so she was also staying at the hotel. And she says her mother screamed, he's dead, and then threw herself on the floor and had a complete meltdown. When the police showed up, initially Narcy suggested that it was an attempted robbery. She suggested that there were just thieves always out for his money and that he always carried cash and people knew that. And of course, because he was a memorabilia collector, people were always trying to steal that too.
Yeah, anybody trying to set up and give you the stories usually.
Right, to feed you all the information. Yeah. They're definitely not a good source. So, but of course, I mean, the detectives just looking at the crime scene could rule out robbery because there was cash and jewelry left in plain sight.
And the door wasn't broken open.
Exactly.
She let them in.
Exactly. Yeah, clearly robbery wasn't a motive, but that's what she kept trying to say. Police also realized, like you said, the lock on the door was one of the key card ones, and the key card that was most recently used belonged to Narcy. She was the only person that had come in and out that morning, so no one else had entered or left the room without her being involved, you know?
That's the one thing that's going to definitely tie it to you is you're the only one that at least kicked the door open.
Yeah. Something. So police, of course, suspected Narcy that she let the murders in the room at least. Even if it wasn't her, she definitely had involvement. They were skeptical from the beginning. But they really didn't have enough evidence to prove it, you know? So they interrogated her, hoping that she would come clean or slip up or something would happen. And they kept her for 13 hours asking her questions. And eventually they asked her to take a lie detector test, and she failed.
Shit.
So they knew that there was deception. They knew that she had been involved somehow. So their next mission, of course, is just set about like proving it and finding people that could be linked to her.
That's got to be so frustrating to know the answer, but you can't prove it.
Yes.
Ugh.
I know. So she told detectives that her husband was a, quote, hard person to work with and a strong businessman who had a tendency to make people angry. Her statements were basically calculated to just point all directions but her, you know? And she implied that he wasn't liked, that people had a problem with him. So as soon as the robbery thing didn't go over, then she basically was like, well, someone killed him because of business.
Yeah.
You know, and she just kept changing her tactic, but always to deflect off herself.
Yeah.
To some extent, it was true that Ben had a couple enemies in business, or at least people that he had a little bit of a clash with.
I get it being like someone that he's wronged in business, but to go to gouge someone's eyes out is really specific and really just vengeful. And it seems like you must have really ruined someone's life to...
Yeah, most detectives know that kind of the severity of the injuries inflicted on a victim represent how close the murder is, you know? Like, usually someone that just has a problem in business or whatever, I mean, usually the murders are a little bit more simple. They just shoot someone or something like that. But this was a very brutal, horrific attack.
Yeah, 2 shots to the chest versus 50 smashes to the face with a hammer or something like that can prove, well, what is that called? Not rage, but like a crime of passion.
Exactly.
You know? So.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, like I said, she was right. He did have some people that he butted heads with, different city governments. There was some of people that had problems with his Amway conventions because there are some people that see Amway as kind of a pyramid scheme. So by proxy, they had a problem with him working with them. But I mean, nobody that had enough motive or enough passion behind it to really do this kind of severe, brutal murder, you know? So it didn't really make sense, but she kept trying. The detectives, of course, believe that nobody had more motive than Narcy. After her husband's death, she cleaned out his safe deposit box and she began to liquidate some of his assets.
Totally not suspicious.
Right? Exactly. If you want to look innocent, fucking cool your shit, damn.
Put money in the safety deposit box.
Exactly. So she began going on spending sprees. She was throwing huge parties. It looks like she kind of hired like a staff to like wait on her hand and foot. You know, she was just living it up.
She went Menendez.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So her daughter May was, of course, furious, and she was alarmed by her mom's behavior because her daughter thought, my mom's crazy. My mom's different. But not my mom's a murderer.
Yeah.
And at this point, May kind of switched and was like, oh my God, my mom did this, you know? And the detectives told her that the mom failed the lie detector test. So May kind of definitely turned on her mom, you know?
Damn, why would they would tell her that just to get her to turn? That makes me mad at the cops, right?
Well, maybe she has information to help, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
if she can help solve it and there's something that maybe didn't stand out to her before, but once she reevaluates with new information, she could think, oh my God, I didn't think that was suspicious, but that was not okay. My mom did this. My mom did that.
True.
You know, so maybe it would spark something for her. I think that's what they hoped.
I just feel that like if they would have dropped the wrong piece of information, imagine if she didn't do it and you just helped incite a kid distrust their mom. I don't know.
They were so sure though. They were so sure. Yeah.
That's true.
So on the day that the will was filed, August 14th, 2009, Narcy and her daughter May had a really bad fight. And May says that her mother hit her with a crowbar.
No.
Yeah. So police were called afterwards and there was an investigation launched and they pulled video surveillance for their home. And in the video surveillance, you can see May arriving at the house with a friend to basically get some of her stuff because she wanted to leave. Like, she didn't want to be around her mom.
In the house of the killer.
Right. So she went into the guest house and started getting some stuff. And then you see her mom, Narcy, walking into the guest house behind her holding a crowbar. Yeah. Yeah.
Goodness.
So May says Narcy swung at her head, and then May put her arm up to block it, and the crowbar hit her arm. And of course, as part of the investigation, there were photos taken, and she had a clear, large bruise on her arm. While the assault investigation was going on and Ben's murder investigation was going on, there was an anonymous tip that was sent via a letter to the police station. The letter claimed that Ben's mother, Bernice, was the victim of, quote, the perfect murder. So in light of the new information and the investigation into Narcy, they basically reopened the death investigation for Bernice and started to look at the evidence again to see if it was possibly homicide. So for the investigation, of course, like multiple crimes, they soon got evidence that her brother was involved. They looked into his criminal past and pulled up his record, and then started to look into his known associates and pull everybody in for interviews. And of course, pretty soon, they had Cristobal and Alejandro and Joel all in custody in Miami.
Especially because if they're little criminals, they probably got in trouble for another crime.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like, well, if you tell us about that,
yeah,
you won't get in trouble for this.
Exactly. Yeah. The pair immediately flipped on Nancy and Cristobal. Yeah. So Narcy Novack was arrested for the murders of her husband and her mother-in-law in July 2010, just 3 days before the year anniversary of her husband's death.
Who did the tip?
Yeah, I know, right?
Ugh.
I have no idea.
Damn.
Yeah. So her brother was also arrested and charged, and the two hitmen were, of course, the star witnesses for the trial. The defense basically argued that the two hitmen had planned the whole thing alone, but when they got caught, they decided to lie to save themselves. That was the initial defense. So even if it was one word against another for these two sides, the defense really couldn't explain how there were credit card records, there were mobile phone logs, there was ATM surveillance video that showed the hitmen on the road between Florida and New York with Cristobal, the brother. Cristobal denied that he went into a Kmart near Miami and bought the actual dumbbells that were used as the murder weapons, but there was footage of that too. Yeah. So when straight up denial wasn't working, then they started to switch their tactic and they decided to blame Narcy's daughter, May.
What?
Yes. They basically alleged that nobody had more motive to get rid of everybody than May, because then she stood to inherit the entire fortune herself.
Fuck you.
Right, right. Yeah, by all accounts, they were super close and had a great relationship, and she was a really nice girl. So it was just very weird, but that's the tactic they tried. So May, she worked for Ben. She handled a lot of aspects of the business. By all accounts, she was kind of his right-hand man. Like, she was his sidekick, you know? So the defense claimed that she murdered him to get his money and also to take over the business, you know? That she was the next in line to basically be his successor.
Right? She was next in line. She could wait. She's a young girl.
Exactly. It's going to happen eventually.
It's going to happen no matter
Why?
what. So might as well absorb all the knowledge you can from somebody you admire and look up to and are close to.
Right.
Try again.
Next. So yeah, there was just no evidence to back that up at all, you know, but they kept bringing her name up. They kept blaming her. Cristobal said, the real criminal, the one who arranged this whole thing, was May Abad. They have no evidence against me. I don't know what I'm doing here. Just fucking straight up denial, which is just weird. You have to be able to prove something, but they had nothing to prove. No, there was no evidence pointing to her.
So we saw you going into a Kmart. So we saw you got 15 grand.
Right?
Like,
and then kind of like the last ditch effort seemed to be that when that wasn't working, they basically blamed each other. Like, oh, my brother planned it more. Oh, my sister planned it more, like at the last minute. But of course, I mean, they were just flip-flopping all over the place. So nothing really stuck. And everybody knew from the very beginning that it was a pretty straightforward case, that they were going to be guilty, basically.
If I'm going to flip-flop, I'm going to need me, one detective, and a Coke, and immunity.
Right.
Problem solved. If you're going to look out for yourself and blame other people, might as well give them the truth and get yourself out. Not to be selfish and a terrible criminal at heart,
but you know.
Do it right.
Yeah.
Don't blame a little girl.
Exactly. So after a 9-week trial, the jury reached a decision. And Narcy chose not to be present for the verdict reading and the sentencing. She listened in the room next door on a speaker as the verdict and sentence was handed down. Narcy Novack and Cristobal Valise were each found guilty of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, domestic violence, stalking, money laundering, and witness tampering for both Ben and Bernice's murders.
Money laundering, that's random.
Yeah, and they were both sentenced to life in prison.
I didn't know that you could... I didn't know they gave you the option to sit in another room.
I know it was weird to just mention that, but it was kind of strange to me that... And also very telling, of course, the kind of cowardice of people that are real brave and do some stupid ass shit.
True.
And then when it comes down to it, she can't even face the verdict.
She can't face the verdict, good or bad. Like,
right.
You can't face people being upset with you if you're let off, and you can't accept the punishment or the looks you get for being found guilty.
Right.
Or looking like the victim's family in the face.
Yeah.
Including your own daughter, probably.
Exactly.
So.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting telling thing about just her cowardice.
I think it's a telling thing about our system too. I mean, I didn't know they give you such an amenity like that. I didn't think they cared.
Like, oh, if you don't really want to face it, you could just sit outside.
Yeah, that's kind of
bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of lame. That's really lame, because what's the whole point of being a 9-week trial is if
right,
that one moment where they find you guilty and you be like, fuck you, you killed my fam.
So they were both sentenced to life in prison. And of course, because of the Slayer statute, which we've talked about before, Narcy would not be eligible to collect any of Ben's money.
Yes, that's with insurance, right? Wait, with the Slayer...
If you're the person that either committed or was involved in the murder, you can't have access to any assets.
Okay, any assets
from the victim.
Okay, including life insurance, including anything you've been in the will, including
businesses, properties, anything.
Even if you're that's good.
Yeah. With her mother now convicted, May was the person that was designated to inherit the estate. So, however, the estate has been the focus of a probate battle that's gone on for years, with a bunch of family members coming forward claiming that they have more rights than basically a stepdaughter. Because she is not biologically related to Ben, there's a bunch of people that are, Novack distant family members that are actual blood relatives saying that they deserve the fortune.
Man, people need handouts left and right.
I know.
Like, nobody wants to work for anything. We were just talking about that. The laziness is...
One of the ladies that is fighting for the money is Steve Wynn's wife or ex-wife.
Of the hotel?
Yes, who has an ungodly amount of money. Why do you need another couple million? You have so much money.
You're a win.
Right? Like, there's just a bunch of people that are just already... It seems like there are already rich people, and they're just kind of like walking up with their hand out.
Like, if you didn't even work for the company, I can understand if it was like, okay, somebody else, this person worked at the company
put in years of work to this. And no, but it's not like that. It's just people coming out of the woodwork. Yeah. Yep.
I want to cry. That's so sad.
I know. It's really depressing.
Poor girl.
Yeah. So while the will is being argued, one of the sad things that's happening is that one of May's sons has undergone multiple surgeries for a major heart condition. And so she's had to fight for access to some of the money to pay for his medical expenses. So she's gone to court a few times to basically, show some medical records and some bills and say, I just want the amount of money on this bill,
Yeah.
And so she's gotten a little bit of money, but the last report I saw was 2016 and there was no conclusion. So it's still all up in the air from what I can tell.
If he put her in the will, like, isn't that hard? Isn't that...
Well, the will only had Narcy in it, and then Narcy's child
would be the next in line.
Exactly.
What about? Oh no, sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to make it like, how can
you're like, let's get this money from those bitches.
It's my money and I need it now. Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, that's so sad. Families just, I don't know. You don't think it's gonna happen to your family, and then someone dies, and everybody loses their shit.
Do we gotta start a Kickstarter for her son?
I know.
I'm tripping. That's so sad.
I know. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the story of Narcy Novack and all the Novack family.
Killer name, though. Narcy Novack. I love it.
Rebecca Bliss.
Becky Bliss,
Mona
man.
Love.
Yeah, Mona Love. I'm really sad now.
So that wasn't super industry related, but, one of the greatest battles of all time, stripper versus porn star.
Neither one.
No, not at all. I don't think I looked up what's going on with Rebecca Bliss nowadays, but I don't know. Yeah.
Man.
And that's XXX Part 3.
Do you want to watch some porn? Because I really need to cheer up.
I know. I need to see something sticky to put a smile on my face.
Let's go Debbie Does Dallas. Let's go soft and classic on this one.
I feel like you and I have watched so much porn together. Like, I have not watched more porn with anybody in my life than you.
So good.
Do you remember when we were staying in a hotel, like in Orange County, and we saw the birthday porn? Where he was just, which one was it, her singing happy birthday?
I think it was her.
But like all out, like belting out happy birthday while fucking.
Yeah. So good.
That was a good one. That's one of my favorites.
I feel like we didn't get any other channels really, except for, I feel like we were, it wasn't our first choice, right? Weren't we like stuck with that?
Speak for yourself.
Okay, it might have been.
No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe you told me there were no other channels.
It's just not working, Kel.
This is the only
I don't
one
know what's happening. As I'm furiously masturbating in the corner.
Pouring whipped cream and candles on your vagina. It's my birthday. I didn't tell you. Good time. Aww.
I'm kind of sad to move on from letter X.
Are we
These
moving
have
on?
been some good ones.
These are great.
We usually do only 3 parts. I don't know.
I mean, there's no rules.
I guess it is our podcast.
We can stay nasty. You know, we're getting near the end, man. I thought about that. And
I know.
Kind of.
Just a couple letters left and we're done with the alphabet. Yeah. So, and then we'll go on a break for a minute and then we'll come back at letter A, which is going to be super awesome.
Yep, A for awesome. Yep, I'm excited.
So let's see. I think that's pretty much it for this episode. So just a reminder, you can find links to a bunch of stuff in our show notes, including the references if you want to read more about tonight's case, some resources if you want some mental health stuff, and if you want to have access to some bonus episodes and merch, you can check out our Threadless and our Patreon, and the links are going to be in there. And then we just got to say thank you to our new Patreon people for this week. Beth, Laura, Devin, Ashley, Amanda, Blair, Joanne,
Nasty Girl 101. Nature Girl?
Nasty Girl, dance.
Nature Girl, right?
Yeah,
cool.
Nature Girl.
Can we say...
But she'll always be Nasty Girl in my heart.
Nasty Nature Girl. Can we also say thanks? I'd like to say thanks to everyone that reached out to say thanks. Not to say thanks, but to say like their well wishes and caring for us. Not only because everyone of course, your surgery and everything, but even a shout out for me not feeling well. And just people are like
super sweet.
nice. Like, hey, take your time, get ready. We can listen to old episodes. And I can't tell you how much. I'm not active on Facebook or anything like that. And I should be at 1 a.m. tonight. Probably I'll try and like everything
and
at
then
once.
not again for another month.
Never. And then I just go into a cave. I don't know why I can't do it. I get really depressed when I'm on social media, honestly.
I get it.
It's a very sensitive thing. But I really want to say thanks to everybody that's been showing so much support.
It's meant a lot. Like, sometimes there's moments where you just need like that perfect little thing to kind of brighten your day. Yeah. And someone will send a message or say something sweet. And I'm like, oh man, I was having a real hard time and I feel a lot better. You know, like it just means a lot that people are so kind and supportive. And I really appreciate it. It means more than I can really even articulate. It means a lot to me.
And even those things make me happy when people post in there like, somebody posted, I was having a bad day and then I listened to this episode or I got some merch or something like that. It made my day. And that makes
I know. It like totally turns it around. I'm like smiling from ear to ear, just knowing that someone smiled, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my God, cheesy. Gross.
I know. But thanks. Can I blow you to repay you guys? I don't know how else to say thanks.
You only express gratitude through sexual acts.
I met that girl, like that girl, whatever her name is in House of Cards, where Stamper gives her money. And she's like, I need money. And she starts taking off her shirt. And he's like, I thought you didn't do that anymore. That's me.
I thought you turned over a new leaf, Kels. You're like, nope, check out these titties. Flop them out.
Flop. Flap, 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 flap.
Oh,
well, that was great.
So thanks, you guys. We really appreciate you. It means a lot. And, we'll be back next week with maybe, who knows what letter we'll be on next week. Yeah. Let's go learn the alphabet in True Crime and Chill.
Let's do it.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Dina Marie, the host of the Twisted Philly podcast, and I've got a question for you. Do you love podcasts? Because I sure do. And that's why the podcast community, Podcast We Listen To, is hosting their very first podcast convention for listeners. It's called Podern Love. The Podern Love convention is for listeners by listeners. It's for all of us, and it includes podcasts from every genre you could imagine, including comedy, movies and TV, pop culture, paranormal, history, health and fitness, true crime, and so many more. Our first convention is August 10th, 11th, and 12th, 2018, in one of the coolest cities in the country, New Orleans, Louisiana. And it's being held at the Intercontinental Hotel, which is a premier French Quarter hotel. The location is amazing. And the room rate can't be beat either. It's only $129 a night. Tickets are on sale on the website at www.podern.love. That's www.podern.love. There are over 40 independent podcasts already lined up to present at Podern Love, and we'll be adding more before the convention. Plus, featured podcasters have discount codes, so you can get a discount on your tickets. Be sure to follow Podern Love on Twitter and Facebook for the latest convention updates, news, information about new shows that are joining, and links to a dedicated website just for Podern Love attendees to book their hotel room. We can't wait to see you this August in New Orleans.